Well, here we go, I think. Let's see. Yeah, just see the last counts are coming on. I see Councillor Withy still trying to connect to audio. We'll just give him a second. There he is. Okay, I will call the meeting to order, and I will confirm that we have all of council present tonight. And I have a resolution moved by Councillor Fitzgerald and seconded by Deputy Mayor Alcock. Be it resolved that the regular council meeting agenda dated Monday, January 24th, 2022 be adopted as printed and circulated. All in favor? That carries. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest?
Mayor Terziano?
Yes.
My apologies. You're going to have to go back and read the land acknowledgement statement.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Madam Clerk. And I will call on Councillor Schumacher to do that for us tonight. Sorry about that. I was so eager to get started.
Thank you. Through you, Your Worship, the land acknowledgement statement. I would like to respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe under the terms of the Robertson-Huron Treaty number 61 of 1850 and the Williams Treaties of 1923. We commit to acknowledge, learn, educate, create opportunities, honor sacred places, and take action towards real truth and reconciliation in support of our commitment to walking the path together in respect, peace, and harmony for future generations.
Thanks for that. At the opening of our Roma conference this morning, Perry Bellegarde was talking about how we're doing the land acknowledgement statements and how we probably need to be more to make them even more meaningful. So shame on me for forgetting it, going right past that tonight. Anyways, we will move right along into deputations, and tonight we have with us from the Medial Church Preservation Society, Carolyn McKay. I saw Carolyn earlier, and I think you have Ann Collins and Ann Curley with you.
Mayor Terziano?
Yes.
I'm so sorry to interrupt one more time. I know you said pecuniary interest, but I don't think you had time to see if there was any.
Okay. Giving you more time, Council. I did not see any then, and I do not see any now. Okay, so I'm not sure who's going, whether it's one of the Anns or whether it's Carolyn, but the floor is yours. And are you going to do a PowerPoint?
No, I wasn't going to. I have a letter or just kind of an opening statement. Everybody has the letter that I sent,
Yeah.
And our program plan for marketing and such. So everybody has that, I believe. Yeah, okay. So I'm Carolyn McKay, President of the Medial Church Preservation Society, and I'm joined today by Ann Collins, Vice President, and Ann Curley, Director. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today regarding our request for tangible support for our application with the Heritage Canada. Our goal is to restore and revive the building as a place for community and family events that will benefit tourists and residents. We are hoping to do this in time to celebrate the 150th anniversary of the Medial Church in May of 2023. We have applied for a matching funds grant from Heritage Canada's Legacy Fund and launched a community-focused fundraising campaign to raise the matching funds to support the application. The feedback received from the Legacy team has been very positive because of the preservation work we are doing on a historical, significant piece of early settler history and the opportunity to celebrate a significant anniversary and provide a legacy for future generations. The restoration project costs are $250,000. We have raised funds to date of $70,000. With our request to the town of Huntsville for $25,000, along with our matching funds of $25,000, And with the success of the Legacy Fund grant of $100,000, we will be in an excellent position to complete our restoration project. Tangible municipal support for the restoration project is part of the basic eligibility criteria of the Legacy application. And therefore, we are asking for this financial support from the town of Huntsville. If we are not able to obtain this support, the Legacy Fund application will be unable to be completed. Thank you again for this opportunity, and we're happy to entertain any questions.
Okay, thanks, Carolyn. I'm going to go to Councillor Thompson first.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, and hi, Carolyn and
Hi.
Anne.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here tonight. First of all, I think this is a fabulous project, Carolyn. I had a good chat with the former Mayor Claude Dowdy the other day. I understand he's joined the team as well. Question I have for you, the $25,000 request from the town of Huntsville and the $25,000 grant, is the grant contingent on the town donating $25,000? Is that sort of leveraging, Carolyn? Is that what we're looking at here?
Yeah, as I said, it's the application is requesting tangible support from the town for the restoration project. So, you know, and that's why we are looking for some assistance with that.
Okay. Deputy Mayor Alcock.
Thank you, Your Worship, and to Carolyn and to Anne and Anne. I echo what Councillor Thompson said. I don't have a question. I just want to say how incredibly supportive I am of all of the work you guys are doing. I have had the good fortune to attend a couple of the AGMs, and it's such a dedicated group, such an amazing project, and I will support whatever we have before us later in the evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Armour.
Thank you, Worship, through you. Thank you, ladies. Great presentation, Carolyn. Very nice hearing from you.
Thank you.
My question is, really, I just wanted to clarify, because you've raised 70,000
Yes.
and the grant's for 100,000.
The grant will be, it's a matching funds type of program as well, where they, based on our projected budget that we submitted with the application, it was working out to about 100,000 that they would give us over, you know, as we had expenses, we submit expenses, they would reimburse us for those expenses, and it'll be up to about 100,000.
Well, that's excellent news. And the 25,000, the matching 25,000, that come out of the 70,000 you fundraised so far?
The 25, no, this will be new funds that we raised. Yeah, that's money in the bank, and we have some potential prospects that are coming down the pipe here in a while. So,
well, that's great news. Fantastic for you guys. Really appreciate what you're doing for that community. That's amazing. Great job. Thank you.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I just wanted to say great job everyone's doing there. I love the fact that you have forecasted your calendar very far into the future, so I can actually accommodate and try and help out and join some of those events and things that you're planning there. So keep up the great work, and I'm in support of this as well. So thanks for all your efforts.
Thank you.
So Council, just for a little bit of further information, we did provide a letter of support to Carolyn early on in 21, I think it was, for this grant. And I did see the communication that came back from the Legacy Fund saying they needed to see some municipal financial support from the municipality for that grant to be considered. So based on that and the fundraising they've done, and the program they put together for the future use of Medial, to me, it meets the criteria for for funds to come out of our MAP money as well. So I know we're just a few weeks after approving our budget for this year, but it could be done without having to have any budget implication. So if there's no other questions for the ladies, we do not deal with this until the end of our agenda, which isn't very long today. You're welcome to stay, or we will certainly let you know what comes out of this meeting a little bit later.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much for your time today.
Okay, thanks everyone. I have a resolution moved by Councillor Stone, seconded by Councillor Thompson. Be it resolved that the regular council meeting minutes dated December 13th, 2021, and the special council meeting minutes dated January 10th, 2022 be adopted as printed and circulated. Any questions? All in favor? That carries. And committee reports, the BIA Board of Management from December 21, Councillor Stone.
Well, you've seen the minutes, so I'll answer any questions there. But what's happening downtown right now is kind of exciting. There's they're building a snow village / playground in Rivermill Park, and there's going to be slides, ice sculptures. Some of the ice sculptures will be beside Town Hall or along the King Street walkway, and they'll be lit up as well. So I think that should be done this week. So get down there and play in some snow. The only other thing I have is the AGM, the BIA AGM. If you're so inclined to join us, it's this Thursday at 5:30. And that's it.
Okay. Any questions? Seeing none, we'll jump right into Committee of Adjustment, and that's still you, Councillor Stone.
We only had 3 applications and nothing was contentious, and it was a very quick meeting.
Questions, Council? Okay. Huntsville Lake Bay's Chamber of Commerce, Councillor Weeb.
Thank you, Worship. A few things to update. We've got as well our AGM coming up on February 2nd at 5:30. So feel free to join if you'd like. If you'd like to. As you probably know as well, Kelly Haywood is going to be appearing this coming Wednesday at our committee meeting for the annual update. So anything I miss, she'll be more than happy to fill in. Obviously, Eclipse Will Walk with Light has been a great success. I'm sounding like a broken record, but I think the numbers we have right now are 20,000, in excess of 20,000 people have gone through. So it's quite impressive. And again, anyone who hasn't done it, go. It's worth doing. The rapid tests, the chamber played a key role in getting the rapid tests out to businesses, local businesses here through the Ontario Chamber. And we actually just ran out of tests. That's how much uptake there's been. That speaks obviously to the need that's happening with the rapid spread of Omicron that's going on. But they're awaiting more tests. They should have more from the province very shortly, we hope. As Councillor Stone mentioned, there's going to be some ice. You're going to see some ice sculptures popping up around town. This is going to be kind of neat. It's in case anyone was wondering, originally the chamber was going to have the Snow Fest, but due to the capacity and the logistics, it didn't seem feasible to hold it. So that the ice sculptures are kind of part of the in lieu festivities. The chamber also received a $50,000 federal grant from Heritage Canada, which we just heard about, and it's to celebrate Deerhurst's 125th anniversary, playing a pretty key role in our community for the last 125 years. So there will be some fun tourism events going on this spring, summer, using that money to drive more tourism. So there you have it. Any questions? I'd be happy to answer. If not, like I said, Kelly will be with us Wednesday.
Thank you for that. Council, any questions? Councillor Thompson.
Yes, thank you. Through you to Councillor Weeb. Could you expand on is it grant money going to Deerhurst, and how are they going to be using that? Is that what I'm hearing there, Councillor?
Yeah, it's a Heritage Canada grant, and it's for $50,000. It's teaming up funds essentially that the chamber is assisted in acquiring, and that'll be spent on various tourism related festivities this coming year.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Council, I have a resolution moved by Councillor Schumacher, seconded by Councillor Weed. Be it resolved that the General Committee meeting minutes dated December 15th, 2021 be adopted as printed and circulated. Questions? All in favor? And that carries. And I have a resolution moved by Councillor Armour and seconded by Councillor Withey. Be it resolved that the Planning Committee meeting minutes dated January 18th, 2022 be adopted as printed and circulated. I'm not sure who to call on for this. Deputy Mayor Alcock did the first half of the meeting and Councillor Fitzgerald did the second half. So are you tag teaming or?
I haven't talked to the vice chair of the committee. I'm certainly happy to spend 2 seconds talking about the first two items. And that's when I bowed out after 2 hours. As I understand it, it was a very long meeting. I know that it took us 2 hours to get through the first two items. Both items were amendments to our zoning bylaw, applications to amend our zoning bylaw, and staff were recommending denial on both of those applications. The first one was to grant the applicant the ability to build on a backlot of a shoreline residential, on a shoreline residential area. And fairly contentious, lots of discussion, and committee decided to defer that item. The second item was to bring in conformity, again, shoreline residential, and to allow for further development of the shoreline residential property. A number of existing buildings, accessory buildings, that sort of thing. And again, a lot of issues associated with that, a lot of discussion. And after all of that, committee once again decided to defer that application rather than to deny. And at that point, I checked out and it went over to Vice Chair Fitzgerald.
Thanks for that, Councillor Fitzgerald. Do you want to highlight anything in the second half?
I really do not want to highlight anything. If anyone has any questions, I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability. It was a very muddled meeting, I thought. So I would hope that the next one runs smoother.
Any questions, Council? Councillor Thompson.
Yes, thanks, Your Worship. Through you to, I think, probably Councillor Alcock, but the backlot issue is always interesting and fun to deal with, I realize. In our bylaw here in Huntsville, is there a minimum size for backlots, Councillor, that there has to be a certain size before it can be developed, that kind of thing? And I'm just curious as to what that might be.
I will ask the director of the development service to answer, but yes, I can. There is a minimum size, and this particular application did not come close to what the minimum size is. There were other issues associated with this though, because it had access to the shoreline, and it was an unusual property. There were many people who suggested that in the original development of the whole private road area that this was never intended to be a buildable site, thus the undersized property. And I apologize, Councillor Thompson. I think in this case it was 1 acre. Other committee members might correct me if I'm wrong, but it would be a minimum of, I think, 2.5 acres, I think.
Director Maxwell, do you have that number handy?
Your Worship, the minimum building lot requirement for a backlot in the waterfront is 4 hectares. And this specific lot, I'm just pulling up the report. My machine's a little slow, but I believe it was over 2 acres in size, but nowhere near the 10 acres that would be required. It was, yeah, just over a hectare, yes. So 2.5 acres.
That's
Follow
my
up, Councillor
reference to
Thompson?
1. It was 1 hectare, not 1 acre. Sorry about that, Councillor Thompson.
Councillor Thompson, you want to follow up there?
Yeah, just to comment on that, I know that Lake of Bays went through some twos and fro's with regards to backlots, and I think they had a minimum, and I remember the previous mayor wanted to reduce that to 7 acres, and met with a lot of pushback from the lake associations for sure. So I'm just wondering if that's something that we should maybe look at. You know, I know this is not the time for that discussion, Your Worship, but I'm just curious about the 10 acre size or the 4 hectare sizes, whether that's just maybe a little bit over the top, and maybe we could you know, achieve what we need to achieve with half that size type of thing. But anyway, the time for another discussion for another time, I'm sure. Thanks.
Okay. Councillor Fitzgerald, did you have something? I saw your hand for a minute.
I was going to make a comment, but I changed my mind, Your Worship. Thank you for noticing, though. I appreciate that.
Okay. All right. Seeing no other questions, all in favor of the resolution? And that carries. Okay, we have a few committee reports at council. And the first one, I have a resolution moved by Councillor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Fitzgerald. Be it resolved that council grants the Director of Operations and Protective Services, or their designate, the authority to declare a significant weather event, and further that a significant weather event be used whenever unforeseen circumstances or events cause the municipality undue hardship in completing its normal operations, and further that bylaw 2021-17, being a bylaw to delegate authority, be amended to reflect this delegation. And I see our Manager of Operations, Kevin Wilcock, is here with us. Kevin.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you. Good evening, Council. Just a quick refresher, I guess, on the minimum maintenance standards. They came into effect in 2002. They were set up 2 main goals: to help municipalities when it comes to claims and lawsuits, and to set up a consistent level of service for many different things, not just snow and weather, but potholes and everything else too, so that everybody's kind of on the same page. In a revision in 2018, it was added for the significant weather event. Significant weather event, I know you probably see it on social media, not a lot of municipalities use it. We haven't found it necessary to put it into place. It covers a lot of different weather events, but the main thing is to help a municipality if for some reason an unforeseen weather event comes in and challenges the municipality getting it done in the times and the tables set up in the minimum maintenance standards. It's not just for a weather event, you're dealing with a weather event, but the issue that we see that could come up to give us difficulty now is with the dealings with COVID and that, whether it be equipment breakdown and we're waiting weeks for parts because no one's stocking parts anymore and it's taken forever to get parts sent in, or for some reason half of our workforce becomes ill and has to stay at home and we're not to meet the level of service that we've been carrying on and meeting for this time. If we do declare a significant weather event, we're not reducing our level of service. It puts us in a state of repair until such time as we cancel the significant weather event. So being in a state of repair, we're not liable for claims or lawsuits or anything like that until this weather event is declared over, a significant weather event is declared over, and then the minimum maintenance standards tables come into effect. Just for an example, 10 centimeters of snow on a class 5 road, it's going to give us 24 hours to do that. If for some reason we don't have the workforce or the equipment to do that or get that done, we declare a significant weather event. Everything's considered in a state of repair until such time as we can end the state significant weather event and clear the roads. We're not going to stop working while we declare this. We're going to keep going, but we just know for whatever reason, we're not going to get it done, whether it be 24 hours or whatever the particular event is that we're working on. So I hope this helps. Like I said, it's not to be used all the time, not planning on using it, but it's there. It's a tool. It's in our back pocket if we need it. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Kevin. I'll go to Councillor Withey first.
Thank you, Worship. I have to admit, this was a bit of a head scratcher for me. I mean, on the one hand, we could just declare it 1st of November to the 1st of May and just do what we can do. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, you mentioned that if you can't get parts for a vehicle and there's a snowstorm, that's when you might do this. That was a bit confusing, but I guess the most significant thing, are we coordinating with the district with this? I mean, because we've got two different levels of government plowing our roads. And do they do this? And if they don't, shouldn't they? And then I think in the best case scenario, this would go on the Voyant Alert app to be able to tell people quite simply that this is going on. I mean, I don't know. It's a bit confusing to me because I think that people understand when there's huge storms that you know, there's obviously we can't magically clean them up in a reasonable time. Certainly, we're getting more significant climate events, but I would think the best approach to this, in my mind, would be to coordinate with the district, see what they're doing, see if they're planning to do this, because they are plowing district roads in our town, and if they are, or if they will get it on that Voyant Alert system, I think would be the best way to notify people.
Kevin?
Through you, Mayor, we can add that to our notifications. We have put in there that we'll be using social media and everything to put this out there. We're not planning on using it. We're not looking at using it. It's been in effect since 2018. We haven't brought this forward. This is more to do with the issues of the world right now that we're dealing with and that we might end up having to do with. You look at the last week, Monday and Wednesday, we had a couple of pretty good sized snowstorms. We had no problem dealing with them, had it done in a timely manner. This past weekend, Saturday night into Sunday, we got no problem. It's those unforeseen circumstances, whether it be a COVID issue or equipment issue, that we can't. It's a way to notify the public, put it out there. We're not going to get it done in our usual 10 hours. It's going to take longer. And according to minimum standards, we have 24 hours to get it done. So if we're not going to do that, this is something we can put out. Like I said, I seen it on social media last Monday when down south had that big snowstorm there. Everybody was putting it out. But they got a significant weather event, like you see here, Toronto and Niagara down that way. People are taking 3 days just to get to some of their side streets and stuff like that. So that's the time that it's there for. That's what it's to be used for. It's not for a regular day event or anything.
Can I follow up, please?
Sure.
Does the district do it?
I've never seen the district do that.
Should we maybe consult with them to see if they are or interested, or perhaps coordinate something?
I think Director Hernan has something to add.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Terziano. Speaking with Mark Misko from the District of Muskoka, and what brought this all on was these discussions about COVID and discussions we had with district and other municipalities about sharing staff in the event of staff shortage. And it came apparent to us that the district does in fact have the authority to do this, because that's how the district planned on handling staff shortages if they have it with their contract, is just to declare a significant weather event. They've got the authority downloaded to them that they can just do it. If council doesn't want to pass this and we ran into the same situations, it would simply mean we'd have to call an emergency council meeting and get council to make that declaration. So this is just eliminating that one step. The reason it's before you now, it's nothing. The intent of it is certainly not to use it on a regular basis. It was more so with this whole COVID and this planning, and back 3-4 weeks ago when the government was saying start to plan for 30 and 40% workforce shortages, we realized that here's one thing we can do to help shore that up, if you will. if we run into staffing problems. But to answer the question, District of Muskoka, Mark Miskell has indicated that is their plan, is to declare a significant weather event if they run into staff shortages, and that's how they plan on handling it.
Councillor Schumacher.
Thank you, through you, Your Worship, to Kevin. I mean, yeah, I'm supportive. I really do appreciate the criteria and the definitions, because when I first started reading it, it just said snowfall. I'm like, okay, that could be anything in Muskoka, right? So I do appreciate and you clarifying that we aren't going to use it, you know, other than in the significant situations that we need it. But to Councillor Withy's point too about the Buoyant Alert app, I think that is the best way to probably, like, I know I have it downloaded with the areas that I am going to focus on, that I'm going to want to know about. And I don't know, do we as a town of Huntsville have the ability to do that, or do we have to then go to the district and have them send that Buoyant Alert out?
Through you, Mayor, we'll look into that. I know we do have it for our emergency situation through the fire department, so we'll be in discussions with them and see if we can have this added to that.
And we are dealing with two different things. We're dealing with a bylaw to delegate the authority to declare an event, and certainly notification. We would improve the notification process in every way we could. Councillor Thompson.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. Through you to Kevin and or Stephen. Kevin, in your initial part of your presentation, did I hear that there might be a liability issue if we do declare this, and that then does preclude us from any liability issue or potential liability issue if we do declare this?
So through you, Mayor, just to recap, the whole minimum maintenance standards came into effect to help municipalities against claims and lawsuits. So that sets up a bunch of tables, like I said, from potholes to snow accumulation to icy roads and to sidewalks even, and the list goes on. And it just gives you a time frame of when a reasonable time to have that road, whatever it is, pothole fixed, road plowed, whatever it is. If for some reason we can't make it, whether half the complement's off with COVID or whatever it is, we declare a significant weather event. It means our roads are in a state of repair, which means we cannot be sued, until which time we declare an end to the significant weather event. And then those tables for snow plowing or whatever it is come into effect. So it does give us time to get caught up, so we're not liable.
That's good. Okay, any other questions? All in favor of the resolution? That carries. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you.
We have a report from our Director of Corporate Services. I have a resolution moved by Councillor Withy, second by Deputy Mayor Alcott. Be it resolved that Council accepts the FedNor Streetscape Grant, and further that the Mayor and Clerk be authorized to sign any necessary agreements or contracts with regards to the grant. Julia?
Thank you, Your Worship. So we were successful in getting a grant from FedNor for $500,000 for the streetscape project. This grant will cover 23% of the eligible expenses up to $2.1 million. And we can go back for these expenses back to June of 2021. The grant is for above ground infrastructure and can be used for wayfinding, signage, marketing and promotion, and other items such as enhancements to our sidewalks, tree seeding, and accessibility improvements. So we will be bringing more information back on this as to how the funds will be spent in 2021 and 2022. It's just important to note that this project hasn't been publicly announced yet by FedNor, but it's before you to ensure we have the agreements signed and in place for the funder.
Questions? All in favor? All in favor of accepting the grant? That carries. Hopefully we will see some kind of a detailed report very soon on what's been completed for streetscape and what's left to do and where we are financially in that project. Is that expected by February or?
Through Your Worship, I'm hoping we can. We're just still working with the district on all their all their invoicing. I know they're not quite done yet to the end of January, or to the end of December. I just had word from them, I think today. So we're just working with them on getting that. So once we get that, we'll bring it back, but hopefully by February, we'll have that.
Thanks. Have a resolution moved by Councillor Fitzgerald, seconded by Councillor Armour. Be it resolved that the receiving sponsorship policy be amended to sponsorship and dedication policy, and further that the amended policy as attached to Corp 2022-11 be approved. And further that staff be directed to bring forward a draft memorial bench program to the February council meeting for consideration. Julia?
Thank you, Worship. So this is bringing forward a revision to our existing policy, and it's primarily so that we can amend this policy to indicate that, or to encompass any dedications that are made. It does imply it, but it's not specific in that policy. So we just wanted to make sure that that wording was in there so that we can use that policy as our overarching document when we're developing programs on sponsorships and on dedications. So we do have two dedication programs right now. We have the seat dedication program, and that's for the theater and then both arenas, and then the adopt an artifact program at MHP. So now we're looking at, if it's council's desire, we're looking at developing a memorial bench program. And I think it's just really important that we have a formal program in place to make sure that it's well defined, and that we're considering factors such as pricing, locations of memorials, timeframes, that sort of thing, and any documentation that we need to have in place for these. So if it's committee's desire, then we'll bring back a draft program for consideration.
Just in addition to that, I had a couple of requests back in November from folks wanting to do a memorial bench dedication. I'm not sure whether this is partly coming from the Rotary program that is down on Hunters Bay Trail, or whether it's coming from the fact that we're going to have a new Main Street. But we have interest in people that want to spend some money on benches and have a memorial dedication on them. So because the requests were coming in, it wasn't just one, it was a couple. I thought that it would be best that we have a policy, and I would very much like to see that policy in place very quickly so that we can put it into effect. So February sounds good to me. Councillor Schumacher?
Thank you, through you, your worship. Has anyone ever wanted to adopt a tree as we're doing the streetscape and we're putting up foliage in places, or wanting to put a tree in a park? Has there been any sort of thought of that, Julia?
I would just, I'd caution the adopt a tree program. The reason being is that trees can become ill and have to be taken down, that sort of thing, and it can cause some distress when people have a memorial tree and that happens. So we might want to focus more on something that's not living to do those dedications on.
Deputy Mayor Alcock.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I'll be fast. In response to Councillor Schumacher's question about the tree, years ago I was approached by a woman in our community who was interested in having an area within our current cemeteries, or at least one cemetery, where people could do just that. They could put cremated remains in that section of the cemetery, but in a garden, and with around a tree or whatever it was meant. She proposed that for people who don't have a place, because you're not supposed to go and do that anywhere you want. So I actually thought that was a really neat idea, and we did do some work internally at the town, but it didn't really go anywhere. So yes, I was approached once by that.
I think maybe as we draft this and this dedication policy, and I'm not sure how specific it's going to be, but I've also been contacted about benches in our cemeteries, or I should say lack of benches in our cemeteries. So maybe this policy should cover more than just a main street and a few significant parks. Maybe it should cover any municipal grounds, so in case it comes up again. Okay, all in favor of the resolution? And that carries. And I look forward to seeing that in February. We're at bylaws already, and I have a resolution moved by Councillor Stone, seconded by Councillor Schumacher. Be it resolved that bylaw numbers 2022-4 to 2022-15 inclusive be reported and read a first, second, and third time and finally passed this 24th day of January. And in the resolution in your package, there's one correction in bylaw 2022-13, which is an amendment to bylaw 2020-95, the acquisition of 37 Center Street, and it should read and 25 North Dufferin Street. Any questions? All in favor? And that carries. Okay. We are at new business, and the first item is, the only item is the Medial Church Preservation Society. And I have a resolution before me to fulfill the request that they made today, and I will ask if there's a mover and a seconder. Deputy Mayor Alcock and Councillor Armour. And this resolution would need 2/3 majority to pass. Be it resolved that council support a commitment of $25,000 to the Medial Church Preservation Society for the rehabilitation of the Medial Church building to be funded through the Huntsville Municipal Accommodation Tax General to be paid upon the construction start date. And further, that staff be directed to prepare a letter of support for their grant application for funding through the Legacy Fund, Building Communities through Arts and Heritage. Questions? Councillor Stone.
Thank you. Yes, I would move an amendment to include that they don't get the 25,000 if the grant monies from the heritage people doesn't come through. I don't know how we need to word that.
Okay, and I think we asked the question, if the funds, if the federal grant wasn't successful, what would happen to their project? And I believe their answer was they would probably do less work. I think that was in the letter. So you would move without federal funding, the municipal funding would not be in place?
Yes.
Okay, Tanya, can we draw up that and see if there's a mover and seconder for that?
If you have a seconder, Mayor Terziano.
Oh, I need a seconder first. Is there a seconder for that motion? And I'm not seeing any seconders, so. No. Councillor Thompson?
Yeah, I'm not seconding that because I'm not quite understanding the issue here. I was sort of under the impression that the grant from the government was contingent on the money being granted through our MAT, the 25,000 that the town would. Is that? Am I misreading that interpretation of? Sorry.
The federal grant application. They directed the Medial Church Society that if they didn't have municipal support, their grant application wouldn't be considered. So they needed municipal support for their grant application to be considered. However, yeah,
so it's not like I'm sorry. So it's the so the steps forward, and this is then the town of Huntsville would put forward the 25,000 before the grant would be forthcoming from the government. Is that it? So
yes.
This is actually putting the horse before the cart.
Well, the amendment suggests that if the grant application is considered and not successful, then is the town still prepared to put? So we're kind of putting $25,000 in for leverage in a way, so that they can make their application to the feds, and the feds consider municipal input there. But I think
So the
amendment,
amendment is
Councillor
sort of a moot
Stone is
point.
just proposing if
Is it
if
not?
the grant isn't successful, are we still going to put in 25,000 to the project? Councillor Weed?
Thank you, Worship. Nowhere in the letter or in the discussions, though, did they say that they wouldn't, in fact, be working on that building and bringing it back to life. I don't know the extent to what can be done if their fundraising stops short of the federal grant, but can you shed more light on that?
I think they have an anticipated budget of 250,000 to get to where they want. I think that goal won't change, but they won't possibly they won't make it by their anniversary date that they were trying for, because they'll have to continue to fundraise and you know, find more funds years down the road. They have a date that they're trying to do it by. So if they don't meet their budget target, the date's going to be pushed off. I think that's the gist. We should have asked these questions when the folks were still with us. Deputy Mayor Alcock.
I think you answered, thank you, Your Worship, and I think you answered the question. What they would do if they didn't receive the grant funding, then they still, as Carolyn mentioned, they've fundraised quite a bit. So they have structural issues that they would continue to do. Those structural issues are absolutely critical that they get to, and they would phase it out for a longer period. So they might not make the anniversary date. And then they have those other bits of construction that they want to do in order to get it to that state of being able to use it as an event center and, you know, wedding place and all of those things. So multiple phases, and I just think they would extend it out longer.
This is your clerk, so I'm not sure if we're doing something wrong or if you're just still getting in the amendment, or can I keep going, or do you need me?
I wasn't clear if Councillor Thompson was going to second that amendment or not.
At the time, I don't think so. He was asking a question. Yeah.
Okay.
Councillor Fitzgerald.
Thank you, Worship. Yeah, I think using MAT funds for that is probably a reasonable thing to do. They have quite an extensive forecasted plan of events and want to get the venue up and running. And I think it's a part of heritage that we can definitely invest further in. They have some new interest on their friends of the Medial Church Society. So I think you'll find that their fundraising is going to ramp up considerably, and that things will get done. And I just hate to see another piece of history go by the wayside because we didn't put the money in. We certainly could have done. So I would support giving the money regardless of their grant status.
Councillor Schumacher?
Yeah, through you, Your Worship, yes. The last paragraph in the letter that Carolyn sent, and it said, if we're not successful candidates of the Legacy Fund, but we are in receipt of the funding support from the town of Huntsville, they'll continue to commence the project in May of 22. However, they'll need to revisit our restoration plan, focusing on the priorities of any structural deficit, whatever that word is, and continue with our fundraising initiatives for a much longer period. So they're hoping that if we still give them the money, they're going to go forward. It's just their plan is going to take longer.
I'm going to go to Councillor Armour because I've been to Councillor Thompson once. Councillor Armour? You're on mute.
I just thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, Councillor Thompson, for taking the back seat. Anyhow, I think this is a good spend regardless. I think it's a great initiative, and I think it has an opportunity for a great payout at the end with the venues and be able to run through there. So got my full support.
Councillor Thompson?
Yes, thank you again, Your Worship. And I agree with Councillor Armour, Councillor Fitzgerald, I was going to make the same comments actually. And I think this is really a critical development for our heritage, the heritage aspect of our town, simply because if you walk into Medial Church graveyard, I mean, our founding fathers of our town are actually interred there. Captain Hunt's grave is right beside the church type of thing. So this is sort of really, as far as I'm concerned, it's just it's sort of a no-brainer in that regard. And I really like the idea that Carolyn mentioned that the church would be used for, I guess, maybe some church services, maybe on occasion, but also for other uses as well. So I think it's a very worthwhile project, and I'm definitely supporting whether or not they get their 25,000 or not. I think we should spend the 25,000.
Councillor Stone.
Thank you. Yeah, I do think it's a worthwhile effort. And I was just cautious because I know when we did give them the church structure, part of that agreement was that they weren't going to ask us for any more money at the time. So that's why I was thinking that we shouldn't attach the two. But anyways, I wish them well, and I hope they can get all the work done, and I look forward to attending events there.
Okay, so that brings the main motion back to the floor, and you've heard the motion. I will call. All in favor? And that carries with more than 2/3. Okay, we're at general information, and we have council correspondence in your package, and we have District of Muskoka updates. And I will start with Deputy Mayor Alcock at the Community and Planning Services Committee.
Thank you, Your Worship. Like all of the other committees, we endorsed the 2022 draft tax supported operating capital budget and forecast for the Community and Planning Services division, and we will be forwarding that to the Committee of the Whole Council on February 4th. It was a long meeting and lots of discussion, lots of amendments, and a number of new requests. If there are questions around those, certainly we did add, or staff were proposing 4 new FTEs in the housing division. And so committee, I will say, was 100% supportive of those positions. And I recognize that that often creates a big stir amongst people that we're adding that many more staff. But in this case, I think it's incredibly valid and supports the concept of focusing on project-specific areas for affordable housing, because the current programs to date are not getting the job done that everybody hopes for. Our waiting lists on our social housing units continue to go up. They currently are at 600, and next year projected to be 630, and it continues to go up. So the other item, other than the 4 new positions that will support these alternative, as well as our existing social housing units, was the setting aside an additional 800,000 to support these new alternative type projects, that such as support for the Community Land Trust, support for working with whoever might roll out the new project proposal here in Huntsville around small homes, if something can transpire, supporting a project that is a community hub and affordable housing on the main street of Gravenhurst. So the district has decided to not only carry on with its normal area of affordable housing programs with the province and the feds, but to use our own money to leverage additional support from the province and the feds for very site-specific projects. So we were all very excited by that, and we'll see if there's a big discussion around the larger table on that. The other two items that were at committee, we did have a presentation from Nick McDonald from Meridian Planning Consultants, who was presenting a proposed draft OPA amendment for the town, for the village of Manette. And I don't know if anybody remembers that there was a fairly large controversy around a proposed additional 4,000 units of resort development, residential resort development in Manette. And so for years, there's been a lot of work on that. And the Township of Muskoka Lakes has finally passed a proposed draft amendment to allow for an additional 2,000 residential resort units. Lot more to that proposal. And so we, as a committee, supported the district going out to the public with a proposed amendment that will support the township's amendment. So we did that. And then finally, we also allowed for the province just provided an additional $900,000 towards the Home for Good project, which was the transitional housing in the town of Bracebridge for 12 units for youth that are either homeless or potentially homeless who need extra servicing. And there was a second phase to that project for an additional 5 affordable units that are more than transitional. And we were successful in receiving $900,000 from the province. So we had to amend our existing budget to accept those dollars. And that pretty well sums up our meeting.
Any questions? I had to chuckle, Deputy Mayor Alcock, this morning when I saw a bit of a cartoon in the conference, and it was a spaceship and space travel and the housing crisis, and which one is giving us more trouble trying to solve. And it appears the housing crisis is giving us more trouble than space travel. So I'm not sure what that says, but makes me think of your meeting. Councillor Thompson, engineering.
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. We had quite a meeting last Wednesday. Quite a lot of things happened during the meeting. The budget issue, of course, as Deputy Mayor Alcock mentioned, and we did approve the EPW portion of that and going forward. We also had a report on the shutdown of the drinking water system in the town of Gravenhurst in November 27th. There was a low fluoride level was detected, and it turns out that the fluoride drum also contained water, which then created the alarm and caused the shutdown of the system. And anyway, it was a major event for the town of Gravenhurst because they were without water then for 3 days. The whole system was flushed out through the afternoon of Saturday and Sunday, Saturday and Saturday evening, I should say. But then they didn't really get the okay to turn the water back on and lift the water advisory until Tuesday at noon. So they were really 3 days without drinking water in the town of Gravenhurst. That's the second major problem we've had last year with water. Gravenhurst, or the town of Bracebridge, as you may recall, were without water too because of a break in the major line, which was very difficult in discovering and so on and so forth. But this one, it was suggested that there might be an external investigation with regards to this, but it was determined by committee that it could be dealt with internally, and it was determined that it was a faulty check valve. That's what caused the problem in the first place. So anyway, they are now up and running. A new item for the folks on Etwell Road. This is work that's undergoing right now, but the Wallington Creek twin culverts are being replaced as we speak. An inspection last fall identified that the culverts were critically failed. So the work is underway now so that the work will be completed and ready for the spring runoff And that's the reason why it's being done this winter. Normally, we wouldn't be doing that in the wintertime, but because it was a critical failure, and we have to be ready for the spring freshet, as they say, this is work that's being done in the cost of about $354,000. And one other thing, with regards to the golden pheasant plant, as you may recall, we had a very informative and good meeting. Somebody may recall, I should say, back in 2018 in Partners Hall with regards to the decommissioning of Mount View and so on and so forth. But it also at that time was discussed that we would have to create a new outfall for the golden pheasant plant, because at the moment it's the outfall brings it all the way back into near Scotts Point. Well, now that line is going to be used, of course, for the infall, the water coming from downtown Huntsville that we're pumping out that way, or not the water, but the wastewater, I should say, being pumped out that way. So it required creating a new outfall. So that has now just been finalized, but it does require a 30-day EA. So that's either an amendment to that resolution that the town of Huntsville okayed back in 2018, or it's an addendum. I'm not quite sure which one it is. Just for your information, some work that's going to be done in Huntsville on district roads in 2022. King William to Shea Road is the first part of a project. This next part of that will be Shea Road to Thunderbridge. That's all to be completed in 2022. And I, for one, am very looking forward to that because those roads need it. Also, Lawrence Street to Highway 11 is also due for upgrading. It's been decades since that street was done, but it's going to be redone this year. It's in the works. And also Muskoka Road 10 from Hood Road to Muskoka Road 2 or Burnell Road type of thing. Just to give you an idea on expenditures this year, roads, the district will be spending $21,373,300, and on the environment, $3,152,271. And that's my report.
Thank you. I see Councillor Fitzgerald's hand.
Thank you, Worship. Through you to Councillor Thompson. I just want to confirm that you said the water issue was caused by a low fluoride levels. Did I hear that correctly?
Yeah, yes, thanks through you, Your Worship. Yes, actually, well, these systems are constantly being monitored, and so then when it was discovered that there was a low fluoride level in that one particular tank, or drum, I should say, that provides the fluoride that goes into the system in Gravenhurst, then it would just create that and cause the shutdown. So they knew that there was something else in the system. There were two things in the system, but they didn't know what, or in that drum, I should say, but they weren't sure what it was. It turned out that it was actually water that had come back in and into the drum, and that's what caused the alarms to go off in the first place. Turned out it was water, but anyway, they have to go through the whole rigmarole, as you can appreciate, when it comes to safe water drinking, and so that's just what happens. Thank Walkerton for the regulations we have today, but it's a good thing, and in a sense, but it was definitely an inconvenience for the people of Gravenhurst being without drinking water for 3 days. So
thank you for clarifying that, Councillor Thompson. I found it a little confusing. They would shut it down. So I get it. There was another substance. They didn't know what it was. Okay. Thank you for that.
Any other questions? Okay. Councillor Withey, Health Services.
Thank you, Worship. Thanks for making me go last this time. So as my colleagues have stated, it was budget time. So we went through our budget as well. I don't know that I need to go into a huge amount of detail. There's the health services section of district is growing. Most of it's growing because of expanded emergency services and more people required to take care of more people. We've also, as everyone knows, we've had challenges with COVID with the Pines and staffing and things like that. So that makes up the lion's share of the increase they're looking for over last year's budget. The total amount is $11.5 million for this department. What they're asking for, it's a 7% increase over the prior year. One note that I asked about that was quite concerning to me was that this draft budget had nothing in it for Fairburn. It had very little, it had 60 grand or something, which was concerning because the plan is for the district to assume operations of Fairburn sometime this spring or early summer. So I raised that question and they said, oh yeah, we're going to bring something else forward before we pass the budget, which struck me as odd that there wouldn't have been some sort of placeholder, because that's adding a whole new home onto the district's operations, and having all the experience with running the Pines. You'd think they would be able to sort of throw a number in there for us to see, because that when it comes through it will significantly increase the health services budget, understandably, taking on a new home. So essentially that's my report. I can try to answer any questions, or Commander Armour is here to answer any questions. As he's the lion's share of the budget. Anyway, that's what I got. Thanks.
Questions for Councillor Withey? Seeing none? Okay, and actually, Councillor, I'm last because I will do the finance and corporate services. And we had a couple of issues on the agenda. Obviously, one was budget. The other was we discussed and passed a recommendation for the base rate for a future council, the one that's going to be elected in November, going forward for the next 4 years. And we had to make a recommendation that we'll go to council for that increase in salary. And then following that, we got right into the budget. And you know, like everybody else, we discussed everything in the finance and corporate services piece, and it will all go to committee of the whole, full district council next week, Friday, February 4th, where they'll put all 4 departments together and try to bring in a tax increase that we can live with. I think they had a guideline of they might be coming in at 3.7, maybe they had a guideline of 3.5, so I do believe it's over budget. But we have another round on February 4th. And at council, it was a very quick council meeting. We passed one resolution recognizing February as Black History Month and asking the district to do some work, you know, to get something significant happening for next February, to do more than just recognize the month, but to put something in place. And then really the rest of our meeting was a closed session, which I can talk about. So that's a wrap for district council. Any questions? Okay. Last thing on our agenda before we go into closed session is we will do a flag raising on the 26th, Wednesday, for Bell Let's Talk Day. And I don't think there's very much I have to say about that. Everybody knows that text and talk on Bell on the 26th, and 5 cents goes to mental health, and we know we can use it. So with that, I have a resolution to go into closed session, and just for the general public, I do not believe we will have any resolution coming out of closed session for those who have something better to do than wait around. I have a resolution moved by Councillor Wiebe and seconded by Councillor Armour. Be it resolved that the next portion of the meeting be closed to the public, commencing now at 6:39 p.m. for the purpose of considering the following matter pertaining to the following section under the Municipal Act, Section 239(2), 10.1C, proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of land, confidential report, Corp 22-9 easement 120 Burnell Road. All in favor? That carries. And that means council to leave this session and log back in under your closed session. 8, 4. Missing Counselor Fitzgerald, but his name isn't on a resolution, so there he is. Okay, we're back in open, and I have a Counselor Weeb, do you have a question?
I was just gonna make a comment before we adjourn, but I can wait till after this piece.
Okay. Moved by Deputy Mayor Alcock, seconded by Counselor Stone. Be it resolved that confirmation bylaw 2022-16 be received, numbered, and read a first, second, and third time, and finally passed this 24th day of January 2022. All in favor? That carries. Counselor Weeb.
Thank you, Your Worship. I just wanted to renege on my invitation to all of you to join the chamber meeting, AGM. It's our board meeting is going to be on the 2nd, not the AGM. So you're not invited, so you can't come. It's going to be later on in February. I'll announce that. And but that's it. Kelly, like I said, Kelly will be here Wednesday. We're going to go through some of the finer details of all that we've been up to. So thanks, everyone.
Okay. Invitation rescinded. I have a resolution moved by Counselor Armour, seconded by Counselor Schumacher. Be it resolved that we do now adjourn at 7:06 p.m. All in favor? And that carries. And we'll see everybody on Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock, probably much lengthier meeting than tonight.